Hello, you're watching another special edition of Business Q&A. I am Nuntobego Kumete. Now, B20 is recognized as the official dialogue forum between global business community and the Group of 20. And while the G20 is a forum for the governments and central bank governors of the world's major economies, the B20 serves as its private sector counterpart, ensuring that the voice of businesses is included in policy deliberations. Joining me in studio to share more on this is the co-chair of the Local Business Advisory Council at B20, Busi Mavuso. Busi, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Now, in our last conversation with the Chair for Trade and Investment Task Force, Busi Mavuso, she touched on the overall mandate for B20, which is a business platform with 200 business leaders, working together to find solutions or influence the global economic diplomacy. Now, from your perspective, because there seems to be an extensive list of priority areas, which is the most critical?
They all are, Nontobego. So there's actually 8 task forces. Busi Mavuso just chairs one of those task forces, which is the trade and investment. There is a task force that looks at finance and infrastructure, another one that looks at energy mix and just transition, another one that looks at digital transformation, another one that looks at employment and education. So there's various of those task forces. And when you look at all these themes that I've actually mentioned, they are all important for South Africa. Trade is important for South Africa, especially looking at the context within which we find ourselves at the moment. It's not just important for South Africa, but it's actually important for the entire global economy, because the tariff impacts, and the changes and the shifts that are happening in the global trade environment are actually affecting all of us. Finance and infrastructure is important for South Africa. Remember, we continue to talk about the fact that the network industries in this country are not functioning as they should. We are struggling with water security. We have actually just turned the corner in as far as energy security is concerned. Transport and logistics continues to be a problem. That is also the theme in the rest of Africa as well as the global south. So that is a topic that is important for South Africa. Employment and education. We are one of the most unequal societies in the world. We actually have unemployment numbers which are some of the highest in the world. 42% unemployment in terms of the expanded definition, with more people that are unemployed than those that are employed in all the provinces except Gauteng and the Western Cape. So the South African participation, therefore, in all these task forces is a critical one, because all of these issues are quite important, for us to actually move our economy along, as it were.
I like how you touched on these socioeconomic challenges, especially with the geopolitical challenges as well. And just looking at the Local Business Advisory Council, how do you connect local priorities with global policies?
So the Local Business Advisory Council doesn't necessarily look at the local environment as in local communities. It is local because it is a composition of South African CEOs, precisely because this is a multilateral institution. This is an international body. So when you are hosting as a country, you therefore have to have a support structure made up of South African business leaders who are then going to look at the work that is being done, by the B20 in our case, and obviously give advice, in terms of how we're supposed to move forward some of the recommendations that are actually going to be coming out from the task forces. So that is the role of the Local Business Advisory Council. And the big work that we're going to be undertaking is when these recommendations come out, in the next month or so, we need therefore to be up and about advocating for these recommendations and finding a way of how South Africa in particular implements some of these recommendations to ensure, that we can actually change our economic trajectory.
Busi, you have touched or you've shared, how South Africa's challenges are not necessarily unique, but they are shared by other nations as well. So looking at representation within the B20, what does this mean for the country, and not only for the country, but for you as well as the co-chair for this council?
So South Africa having representation in all these structures is actually important. It's important from the perspective that we are the only country in the African continent that is a member of the G20. So the voice that we bring, therefore, to these structures is not only a South African voice, it is also an African voice. It is also a global South voice. It is also an emerging economy's voice. So our role as South Africa, we've been very clear from when we assumed the presidency that we actually want to highlight and actually shine a spotlight on and amplify the issues that are important to the country, that are important to the continent, that are important to the global south. And those are the issues of infrastructure, the issues of health, the issues of education, the issues of the just energy transition, the issues of agricultural security and food security, the issues of industrial innovation and all of those issues. And we have done a very phenomenal job, in terms of ensuring that our colleagues within these structures do understand the importance of Africa being secured, Africa being independent, because remember, Africa is the market of the future. We are the only continent that is growing at a faster pace than any other continent in the world. So when investors look for markets, when they look for opportunities where they should invest, they don't look in countries where their population are actually not growing at an accelerated pace. Africa therefore becomes attractive from that perspective. So if you as Europe, if you as the rest of the world are going to be looking at Africa as a market, you have a responsibility to actually develop Africa, because it is manifestly within your interest to have an Africa that is actually prosperous. So that is how this actually finds expression. When we sit and have these conversations, yes, it's South African representatives, but it is representatives from all over Europe as well, and all over, representatives of the people that are from the member countries, which are members of the G20.
Then even more so for businesses to pay attention to what's going on B20-wise, whether corporates, SMEs, whether the size. What was your perspective on that?
I think we probably failed to properly explain as business and government what the G20 and the B20 is and what it is not. Because a lot of South Africans and a lot of businesses think that it is a B2B opportunity or platform, where there will be a business from China and you have an opportunity to actually meet up with them and probably maybe get funding or whatever the case is. That is not what this is. B20 in particular mainly deals with putting together policy recommendations that affect the global economy. So when you look, for instance, at the issue of the just energy transition, as countries of the world, we signed the Paris Accord, for instance, in 2015, which said that by 2030, we have to reduce the carbon content in all our products. We have to actually move away from the fossil fuel electricity, a generation of electricity, and we actually have to move to renewables. A lot of countries, not just South Africa, are struggling with that transition. A lot of us are still using coal, as an energy source. Europe, Germany, France, Italy, are all struggling with some of those issues. So because it's a common problem, it is a problem then that would find expression in the just energy, just transition and energy mix task force. To say, because this is a struggle for all of us, is it possible to probably maybe shift the deadline from 2030 to probably maybe 2050, because we're all struggling. This is an issue for all of us. So that is the platform for that, to say what are the issues that are affecting all of us as the global economy, and how do we then recommend to our presidents, because remember, we are going to be putting these policy recommendations and we're going to be giving them to the presidents and the prime ministers in November when it comes to the G20 summit, to say that we think that if you want to help the global business economy to prosper, you need to put some of these things into effect. And I'm sure that the issue of the tariff impacts, because all of us have been hit by the tariffs from the US, that is probably maybe going to be another recommendation that we put to the presidents, to say that we're going to have to find a way of how we navigate this so that our economies are not adversely impacted.
Thank you very much, Busi, just for sharing your thoughts and insights. We're very excited to find out more on what's going to happen in this space. So all the best of luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was the co-chair of the Local Business Advisory Council at B20, Busi Mavuso, sharing the critical importance of South Africa's business community in the overall G20 process.